Hi, Dr. Taylor here again. We're going to talk about genetic testing and how it relates to health. So today we're going to look at what's called the MTHFR gene. That stands for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. So where does that play into health? When we're looking at MTHFR, we're looking at methylation. Now, methylation is very important to the body. So right off the bat, when we're talking about genetics, what you need to know is that epigenetics will dictate genetics. And when I say epigenetics, I mean what you put into your body will dictate how your genes are expressed. So you can have no defect with your MTHFR and put bad stuff in and it'll still affect the methylation cycle, or you could have a defect with your MTHFR but you're putting really good stuff into your body and your body can make up for those issues. So like I say, epigenetics will dictate genetics, and that's why we always work on epigenetics first when we work on somebody, then we move on to the genetic side of things. So we're looking through here. So what are things that you can do, or what are things that actually deplete methyl groups in your body will affect this methylation cycle? So we're talking about methyl groups. You know, when somebody develops a disease, it doesn't just fall out of the sky and fall on their head. What happens is you're typically expressing a bad gene, which are expressed through bad methyl groups. So things that deplete methyl groups affect the methylation cycle are things like white sugar, white flour, white salt, bad oils like trans fatty oils, hydrogenated oil, produce covered in pesticides, herbicides, junk food, caffeine, high fructose corn syrup, a lot of emotional stress. All these things will decrease methyl groups, which will affect your methylation cycle. So when we're looking at the methylation cycle, like I say, it's very, very important. Why is it important? Well, methylation is needed for things like DNA and RNA synthesis, so turning genes on, turning genes off, brain chemical production, things like serotonin and dopamine, hormone breakdown, the creation of immune cells, protective coating on nerves like the myelin sheath, processing chemicals, detoxification, and energy production. So all those things are super important to human health. So you can see why methylation is so important and why MTHFR specifically has been looked at for a lot of different reasons. So what happens with poor methylation? Well, just based on what we said methylation is needed for, you can imagine what can happen with bad methylation. So things that are related, that have been correlated through studies to bad methylation are things like cancer, diabetes, thyroid disorders, neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, hormone regulation issues, PCOS, autoimmune issues, fibromyalgia, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, insomnia, miscarriage, depression, anxiety, chronic infection, heart disease, gut issues, a lot of different things. And I didn't even say them all. There's a huge list. I mean, you can go online, Google it, MTHFR defect, and it'll come up with a huge list of things that are related to bad methylation and this gene specifically. So when we're looking at MTHFR and we're looking at methylation, one thing you need to know is methylation is a big cycle. So MTHFR is the gateway into this cycle. So yes, is it very important? Absolutely. But what you need to keep in mind is you can't look at just MTHFR in and of itself and figure that you have good methylation or bad methylation. Like say, first and foremost, epigenetics will dictate genetics, how this cycle works. And when we're looking at this cycle, think of it as an assembly line. So there's different genes called single nucleotide polymorphisms. So MTHFR is a single nucleotide polymorphism. So if you have different SNPs along the line, so different genes through here that may or may not have issues. So like say you're putting good product in, great. You have no MTHFR gene defect, great. But you have an issue with different genes along the cycle, you're going to look like bad methylation is occurring. So looking at just MTHFR is equivalent, in my opinion, to looking at just TSH if someone has thyroid issues. If you have thyroid issue, you know your TSH can come back as normal, but you can feel terrible, have all the symptoms of low thyroid. So your MTHFR can come back normal, but if you're putting bad stuff in, your methylation cycle is not going to work like it's supposed to. So there's a lot more things you need to look at. So MTHFR, is it very important for methylation? Absolutely. But like I say, it's not the end all be all as far as what methylation looks like. There's other things along the line that we need to take a look at as well. And like I say, methylation is one part of the cycle, one part of the issue, but you have transsulfuration down here, you have glutathione cycle down here, and they all work together. So when we look at people genetically, we look at more than just MTHFR. We look at how the whole picture plays into how somebody's functioning and what action needs to be done to help somebody feel better. So as far as genetics goes, it can get really complicated. MTHFR is a good gateway, a good entry point into this. So like I say, genetic testing is important, and that's why we do it at our office. And there's a lot of things that can be correlated to that, disease-wise. So my name is Dr. Taylor. I hope that